You're listening to RockHardRadio.net.
It's That Radio Show with Jeff, the Music Man.
All right, live on the phone from Atlanta, Georgia, I've got Will Price from the band MuckRaker. How you doing today, Will?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today. Hell, you and I go way back. You're a Yankee down in the southern area now, but you're from upstate New York, and we met 20-some-odd years ago at a place called Chuck Clark's in Elmira, New York. You remember that?
I do indeed. It was a long time ago.
It seems like yesterday, but man, it was like 20-some-odd years ago. You were in a band called Tread back in the day. That's when we first met. And then you progressed to a band called Boiler that had some pretty good success. And now you're a Yankee down in Atlanta, Georgia, playing in a band called MuckRaker. How does a Yankee from New York end up in Atlanta, Georgia?
It was just a life transition. Yeah, it was Boiler. We were on Mayhem Records, and Mayhem was a subsidiary of Atlantic Records. And at one point, Mayhem got dropped by Atlantic, so Mayhem pretty much dissolved, and Boiler, we lost our record label, and just tried for several years just to find a new label and get back on track as in terms of music industry, and it just wasn't the right time. It wasn't really panning out, so essentially I kind of decided I was going to just give up on music. Moved down here just to get a fresh start on life. Well, the music was just calling me back, I guess. So decided to form a band down here, and that's MuckRaker.
Well, we're definitely glad that music called you back. I'm definitely a huge fan of MuckRaker, like I was with Boiler as well. And you worked with you worked with a couple of cool guitarists back in the Boiler days with Mark Mays and Brian Robarge. Definitely some great players.
Yeah, no doubt. Actually, my favorite part of when we were Boiler was having Brian in the band. He still remains a really good friend. He's actually he puts together a lot of the artwork and stuff for me for MuckRaker. So I know I can always count on him because he's he's good with that kind of stuff.
Brian's quite a guy. I mean, he's definitely a talented guitarist, and he's a funny guy too.
He's really funny, and just a really, really good friend. He's frankly just one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
All right, let's start out with MuckRaker. How did MuckRaker come into play? How did it start?
I just started looking around online for players just to play with someone down here. The original lineup went through a couple people, some one or two not so great breakups, but mostly, just people were, with me and doing this stuff and decided they wanted to go on and do other things. And then for 5 years or so, I had a steady lineup in this band with Ray Mulligan and Nick Capo on drums, Ray Mulligan on guitar. Then at one point, everybody had crazy stuff going on in their personal lives, and those guys decided that they wanted to just kind of do other things, and I'm still friends with them. I decided, well, I've still got all these CDs to sell and all this merchandise to sell and all these songs that I've written and love to play. So started looking for new members, and about 5 months ago or so, I found a drummer named Chris Tate. He's a really good drummer, really good. And then after searching for a while for a guitar player who could also handle some vocal responsibilities, found a guy named Sean Martin who had moved up here from Florida about a year ago and had been searching for a project to be in. So those guys both joined the band. We're going to be doing our return shows. I haven't played in over a year live. Oh,
wow. I didn't realize it's been that long.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's just we've just gone through so many stages. So we're doing our return show on January 16th, which is the day after the album Carmageddon drops in Europe on Eternal Sound Records.
So you definitely got some big things in the works, but wow, going about a year without playing them, and you're ready to kick ass, take names, and go out there and really do it. And
Yeah.
That's got to be a great show to go see. So if anybody's in the Atlanta, Georgia area, I do recommend you going and seeing MuckRaker, because I think they've got something to prove when they go out, and you guys will definitely prove it.
Yeah, the show is going to be one of our favorite places to play. It's a place called Sweetwater Live. It's in Duluth, Georgia, so it's not too far from Atlanta. So it should be a fun time. There's some other really great bands on the bill. It's a great place to play and hang out. And so.
Now, myself being in bands, I know some of the hardest things that have happened in bands is keeping members in a band. I mean, it's like a marriage. You guys got to get along. You got to be on the same page. Why do you think you've went through so many members since the inception of MuckRaker?
I don't know. It's really kind of strange. I'd say out of everybody I've played with, in different musicians who've been kind of in and out of this project, there's only one that we just didn't get along. Everybody else, some people had family issues, some people had travel issues, some people had issues where they didn't want to commit as much time as I think it should be required for a really tight band. I like to practice 3 times a week. That's the only way you get tight. I know that from being on tour. You're playing almost every night. You come back into your hometown. In Boiler's case, we come back to Ithaca after being on tour, and people are like, "Man, you guys are tight as hell." And it's because we were out on the road for a couple weeks playing almost every night. So it really hasn't been personality issues. It's really just been external issues for the most part. And Chris and Sean, who are in the band now, they love being in the band. And Chris, the drummer, he's from Woodstock, New York. He travels over an hour and a half to get here to band practice. So the commitment's there. They're both fully into it. Yeah, we get along great. So.
That's definitely a plus. And if you got a member who's traveling an hour and a half to get to a rehearsal, I mean, that shows the dedication, how much he wants to be in the band.
Oh my God, it's unreal. And he's invested some money in some equipment for our rehearsal space as well, and a pretty substantial amount. So, it's been years and years since he's really played in a band. So he's just he's getting back into it. He's all over it. And he's a really, really good drummer. And Sean, the guitar player, is really good. He's had a lot of experience. He knows a lot of people in the business. So I think that this lineup is going to be really, really positive. And that, coupled with, getting the record label in Europe, Eternal Sound, I think it's going to be a good thing.
All right, very good. How do the guys feel about coming into the band and doing the old music? I mean, they haven't written anything with you yet that's been released. So how were they, working with the old songs?
They actually both love the hell out of all the songs, which is great. Sean, the guitar player, is like, I can't wait to work on this one next because I've been listening to it and I'm in love with it. And it's the same with Chris, So we've been getting our set list together, and it's going to be almost all older songs. But we do have a new original we're going to be playing. It's called Unicorn Stew. And we always do, it's been the tradition with this band where we always do one cover song, and it's always a Black Sabbath song. So we'll be doing that. But yeah, they're great with all the previous stuff. And they're excited about everything. Even though they're not on the album that's being released in Europe, they're really excited about that, and they're just into it. They're into the project. So it's really cool because they're really both very motivated, as in terms of what's going on with the band.
Well, it sounds like you've got a couple fans actually that joined your band, and that's definitely a plus right there.
Yeah, almost kind of, I guess, but they're great guys to be with and be around and play with, so it's cool.
Now, Carmageddon, that was originally released in 2014, and now you've got this deal with Eternal Sound Records that's being released in 2016.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. It's going to be it's just for Europe. The label is from Germany, Eternal Sound Records, and they're great people over there. And this is basically for just European distribution and promotion. of the record, and then so they're going to release physical copies of the CD and also digital download, and then they also plan on releasing our first album, Big Black Bus, but that'll just be for digital download.
Oh, that's cool. So people can pick up the older stuff as well. Now, how did this deal?
Yeah.
How did this deal with Eternal Sound come into play? I mean, how did they discover MuckRaker, and why did they decide they wanted to sign you?
That's actually funny. There was just one day I got this message on Facebook from a woman saying, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" And she was like, "Hey, your band sounds really great." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks." And then she starts to tell me that she's her and her partner have a record label in Europe, and they're interested in signing MuckRaker. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And so I later found out that she was just Googling stoner metal bands, and she happened upon the picture of our album, Carmageddon, and she liked it. So she just started listening to the music and essentially fell in love with it, her and her partner. So she just started talking to me about signing a deal to release the album. After talking, and I actually know a band from here that signed to their label. So I got to talk to him, one of the members of that band, and say, hey, how is this label? How do they treat you? And he had nothing but praise for Eternal Sound. So I just decided to go ahead and sign a deal with them.
Well, that's very cool, man. If they actually reached out to you and was interested in you, that says something right there.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, it surprised me. I certainly wasn't expecting anything. I didn't send them. I hadn't even heard of them until that point. So, yeah, it's been really cool, and I've talked to them for many months now. Just on Facebook, but they're great people, and they're metal fans, and they run a label over there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I see they got quite a few releases on their page, and obviously they know what they're doing, and they're giving you quite a push, too. I see you're the cover on their page. They got your video on there for Carmageddon as well, and so definitely they're giving you a push, and I think it's going to work out well for you.
Yeah, I think so. It's real cool opportunity. Pretty excited about it.
Being that the album's being released in Europe, is there any plans in the future of heading over to Europe and doing some shows?
We've talked about it. It's that's something that'll have to come in time. We'll have to look into it. It's certainly not the cheapest thing to do.
Yeah, obviously it is an expensive process, but I mean, if enough shows were there, it was cost effective. I mean, it probably would be in the future, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, right now we're kind of mostly concentrating on hooking up with a booking agent and doing some shows here, and then at some point we're hoping to do something like a European tour, but not really about that right now.
Let's talk about the writing process right now. I mean, Carmageddon, how long did it take you actually to put that together, from the writing to going into the studio before it came out?
Probably around a year or so. I mean, I write all the time, but sometimes I am so meticulous about what goes on in a song, as in terms of both the music and the lyrics. I really spend a lot of time getting those right, what I want to put out. So, and then, you write a song, you bring it to practice, other people add or subtract things, and then you get the song down, and it gets, approval or disapproval, whether it's going to stay or not. And then, and then once you got what you think is a full length, because I only like to do full length albums. I'm not an EP person. I mean, I've done them before, but I just don't. I'd rather just go in and do a full album, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 songs, so then you go in the studio and, you just work your hardest to get it to be the best it can be, micromanage the hell out of it. We've got a great sound engineer and producer here, here in close to where we are at Rex Track Studios up in Suwanee, Georgia. And we've worked with them on both albums, so they know us in and out. And then And then once we're done in the studio, actually, both the albums were also mastered at Rodney Mills' Master House. Rodney Mills, back in the day, he's the guy who literally recorded Free Bird and Sweet Home Alabama. He used to be a recording engineer, worked for Leonard Skinner. Now he masters records. So we take our albums to him to master, and then we're good to go.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is a great sounding album, quality-wise. Doing what I do, I get a lot of bands sending me music, and sometimes it's a great song, but the recording is just so not of quality. I can't play it. But your music is out there. It sounds good. It's written well, performed well, and it's definitely major label quality sound. It goes right there with the big boys as well. Fits right in.
Right on, I appreciate that. I talk to a lot of musicians, and a lot of people tell me, "Oh yeah, we're doing it cheap. We're doing it. I know this guy who has a studio in his basement, or the guitarist in this band, he records and blah 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 blah." And I'm just kind of like, you know what? I want to go to a place, just spend the extra money if you got it. I mean, no one has extra money, but it's an investment. That once that recording is made, it's made forever. It's like a tattoo. It doesn't go away. And if you want a crappy tattoo, then you can do it yourself. If you're not a tattooist, you could do it yourself, or you can have your buddy down the street do it, or you go to a legit place that puts out high quality work that you can afford. So, I mean, that's the way I look at it, and I don't know. I'll always approach it that way.
That is a great analogy. I mean, like a tattoo, because like you said, it's out there forever. And if it's a crappy recording, it's going to reflect badly on the band, and people are going to say, "Well, it was okay, but it didn't really sound the greatest." But they can't say that about MuckRaker, because I mean the stuff.
Well, I appreciate that.
I mean, the stuff is out there, and it sounds right. It sounds good right next to Black Sabbath or COC or Clutch. I mean, it belongs there.
Right on. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Now, I know you're kind of a take charge kind of guy, such as I am as well. What's it like working with a producer when you're so hands-on yourself?
Our producer that we worked with, his name is Matt Abercrombie, and he's really, really knowledgeable, really good. And, if there's something I want done or an idea I have, he'll, for the most part, try to the best of his ability to get it done, and most of the time he does. If he thinks it's not such a great idea, we'll talk about it and maybe try it anyway. And most of the time, we'll just agree with each other. I like to be there for the entire mixing process, not the mastering process. So I leave that up to Rodney Mills, just because that's the last step. But it's not as in, there's no playing involved. It's just the last tweaking of everything to make sure everything's right. But yeah, as in terms of being in the studio, I mean, it's, you're in there and you're working on a project together, and, there's going to be give and take, but, we're the client. So what we want to get done is what we want to get done.
Now, in your songwriting, is that something that you pretty much do yourself, or has it always been a band effort?
With Boiler, I wrote a majority of the stuff, but everybody else kind of pitched in more. With this band, it's been pretty much 99.9% me, other than leads, lead guitars and stuff. I write all the lyrics, all the music. Most of the time I have drum ideas, because when I'm writing a song, I'm like, yeah, I think the drums should be doing this. And, and I'll ask the drummer to do that. Most of the time it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. The two former members of this band, they were just fine with me doing that. They just wanted to come and play and learn the stuff that I had been working on already for a month, Haven't really gotten that far into the writing process with Sean and Chris yet. Just a little bit. We've worked on a couple new things. They've each had their own individual ideas, which have been great, and we're using them. So,
now the name of the new album is Carmageddon. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's the combination of Armageddon and Karma. This is the first time I've actually named an album after a song. and the first song on the album is called Carmageddon. But I think it just kind of sums up the whole album's topics. I like to nowadays with Boiler, I used to write about raw emotions and stuff a lot. But with the new band, I like to write about historical things, or things that are happening today around, contemporary things. And, on each album, I like to kind of throw in a more of a fun type of song as well. Like the new album, the last song is Too Much Metal for One Hand, which is just growing up, all metalheads, just growing up, being into metal and playing your music too loud, and, the neighbors call the cops on you, and, so on. So, but, I just think it's just a culmination of, Carmageddon just represents a culmination of all the songs on the album.
Videos. I see you got video for Carmageddon and one for Rise of the Loggerheads. I love both videos. Rise of the Loggerheads, it's got a kind of a squashy look to it, which I think is really cool. Did you work with a video producer on that, director? Is that something that you guys put together yourself? How'd that come into play?
Actually, I make all those videos. I make all those videos with my iPhone, and I put them on my. I got a Mac Mini, and I've learned how to use the program on there just through trial and error. The squash look, actually, that was accidental for Rise of the Loggerheads. It's because I filmed the damn thing the wrong, instead of vertically, I filmed it horizontally, or vice versa. But that's why it ended up coming out squash looking. But it actually, I think it added to the video because it's got a kind of comic book theme with it.
It does.
Yeah. And what was the other one? You had Carmageddon, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just pretty much took footage that I found and kind of sliced and diced, filmed all the stuff that we're playing on there in my backyard. I also made a video for All Hail Mary, Red Vulture. And Red Vulture, there's no people in it. It's just sock puppets. Where the sock puppets playing and stuff on Red Vulture. And then I've got one from the first album, Kingmaker, which is, there's a lot of weird, toys and stuff that I found in there. So, but yeah, I make the videos just because, just for the hell of it,
Well, that's very cool, man. You're definitely a creative individual.
Thank you.
Throughout your career, you probably shared the stage with some pretty big talent. So who's some of the bands you've toured with in the past?
Well, the only real tour we did with a bigger name was Crowbar, but we've done a lot of one-offs. We've opened up for Bad Religion, Biohazard. I'm speaking of Boiler. Opened up for Clutch a few times. Dee Snider, Molly Hatchet, Blue Oyster Cult, Hatebreed, lots and lots of different bands. Lots of different bands. Lots of great experiences that we had doing that. It was very cool. Dio, we opened up for Dio once.
Oh, very cool. Growing up as a kid in upstate New York, who made you decide to pick up the bass and start playing and writing songs? I mean, who were some of your earlier influences?
Black Sabbath is my all-time influence. But I was also influenced by Geddy Lee from Rush, Steve Harris, Iron Maiden, bands like that. Grew up listening to Metallica and Slayer, and eventually progressed to a lot of New York hardcore, Sheer Terror, Sick of It All, bands like that. But yeah, my roots are definitely rooted in old school Black Sabbath, although I do like, I love the Dio years as well as the Ozzy years, and I like Born Again. But yeah, old school Black Sabbath, that's my biggest influence, and that's why we always do a Black Sabbath cover song. Try to do it justice every time,
Very cool. Of the newer bands out there today, who are some of your favorites?
Man, there's so few of those that are, I think, good. But one of my favorite bands is The Sword, except for their most recent release, which I just don't like at all. But I've been a big Sword fan for a while. I'm really into Down, COC, Clutch, all these bands that we've talked about. I'm always looking to get into new bands, but unfortunately, I'm so particular with what I like. The Sword is if you could classify them as new, they're my favorite newer band.
What can we expect from MuckRaker in the next year?
Definitely hope to do a new album. Been working really hard on writing songs for it, and just hopefully doing some touring. I'd like to get back up north and do some shows at some point. It would be cool to go back to my old stomping grounds and just see people I haven't seen in a while and play this, what I'm doing now. This band has a lot of fans from upstate New York, and I'd love to get back there. So that's definitely a goal.
Oh, definitely. We'd love to have you back up here north to see you in the Ithaca area, Rochester, Elmira. I mean, there's a lot of people that would like to see you just because they haven't seen you in forever, and they'd like to see what you're doing now. And I think MuckRaker is quite a good band to show people.
Yeah, it would be cool. It'd be cool. So that's definitely a goal, and like I said, to do a new record. It'll be the third full length for this band. So haven't got a working title yet, but that'll come at some point.
Possible release in 2016?
Possible. We'll see. These things, you never know you never know what's going to happen because it's not even written yet. But hopefully, if we have enough time to get it all together and feel happy with it, go ahead and record it, do all that process that it takes. That would be definitely a goal of mine, because it's been 2 years since Carmageddon was released here. Figure 2 years is a long time to wait. I'd like to definitely try to do that.
Well, you must have a bunch of songs inside you just waiting to bust out then.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I write all the time. I mean, all the time. So. All
right, Will, is there anything you want to say in closing today?
Just, I appreciate you having me on, and just looking forward to meeting people and doing this. And, it's just really fun doing this kind of music to me. It's stuff, I like to write music that, that's heavy, that, but you can sing along to it. You tap your foot to it. You can even whistle to it, So I just want to keep doing what I love to do as long as I can physically do it,
Well, you do a good job of it, because you do write some good heavy songs that are radio friendly, and they got some hooks to it that you can tap your foot to, and I do love that kind of stuff.
Oh, cool! Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, folks, the new album Carmageddon, it is out in Europe on January 15th on Eternal Sound Records. So be sure to get your copy over in Europe. If you're in the United States, if you haven't got the copy yet, what the hell's wrong with you? Pick yourself up a copy. Of course, you can find MuckRaker on Facebook at facebook.com/MuckRaker Metal, and you can buy it online here in January at eternalsound.de. Will Price, thank you very much for coming on the show today. As always, it's a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Can't believe we haven't got you on the show before, but we're going to have to get you back on again really soon.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
All right, thank you very much.
Serving all of planet Earth via the World Wide Web. This is Rock Hard Radio.